Let us create a positive timeline in the planetary matrix. Using the crystals, let us discover what power lies within us, how our planetary matrix was hijacked using secrecy and deception, how a number of minds can affect the entire planet. Let us see how crystals were used in the ancient past and how they will be used in the future. We will compare and corroborate information between the star people and Earth scientists. We will create, by the power of our mind, a positive timeline for planet Earth. I invite you to join Dan Willis and myself for this formidable adventure. Bring with you your favorite crystal. Vogel crystal is the most effective, but you can also bring your regular favorite crystal. Whatever its shape, quartz is recommended. And I find you soon for doing a little bit of magic. Power lies within us. It always did. The enemies of humanity hid from us the keys to this knowledge. Today, we are taking it back. I am Elena Danaan, and together with Dan Willis, we will show you the way to this power and how we can change this reality. Today, we are going to create a positive timeline in the planetary matrix using a crystal. We will see how our planet's timeline has been hijacked using secrecy and deception. We will go over scientific measurements that show that a certain number of minds affect the entire planet. How crystals were used in the ancient past and the future. We will compare and corroborate information from the stars and from Earth. We will visualize a positive timeline on Earth and use a crystal to imprint it into this planetary matrix. Today, to do this amazing work, I have with me Dan Willis. Dan, you are one of the Disclosure Project's top secret military witnesses who testified at the National Press Club Conference in Washington, D.C. in 2001 in front of every major media. This World Disclosure event was asking for a congressional hearing in order to bring forth the witness, scientists within the Black Project who can release the technology derived from extraterrestrial reverse engineering that have been hidden from us for over 60 years. You are also an ex-radio broadcast engineer and an ABC newsman. You took interest in how the mainstream media has withheld disclosure of the full message to the public. And you also worked with Dr. Marcel Vogel on the science of crystals. Dan, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm honored to do this with you. This is kind of a dream come true for me to be able to have confirmation from a being from another star system with the laboratory research work that IBM's top scientists did for 17 years on the science of crystals, and now how we're going to be able to apply this to assist in bringing a positive timeline on planet Terra.
This is wonderful. I am so excited about this, that we are able to make a change. So please then tell us how our planet timeline was hijacked using secrecy and deception.
Yeah, we're going to go a little 5-minute history lesson here of how, for those, many of you are aware of what happened on our planet, and some of you are still learning. And from my decades of research, this is my notes on this. On the planet Earth, there was a group of individuals who plotted to rule the world to serve their own interests. They infiltrated the secret societies and used them for a cover for their plan. With their great control of financial interest and wealth, their assets, they placed in high positions to move forward on their secret agenda for what they called a, quote, New World Order, to have the entire world under their complete control. As part of their plan, they funded the Nazis of Germany into power. Before the end of World War II, many Nazis had escaped with the help of the Vatican, and they had set up a secret base in Antarctica, where they had entered into an alliance with the Draco of the Sakar Empire, which gave the Nazis highly advanced technology. This act was in direct violation of the established Prime Directive in our galaxy. In Operation High Jump, when the US attempted to destroy the Nazi base, they were completely defeated with their advanced anti-gravitic and directed energy weapons craft. This is how they were able to intimidate the US government into a future surrender. In order to move forward on their New World Order agenda, the Nazis fully infiltrated into the US under Operation Paperclip through their assets placed within US intelligence. In order to keep these operations secret from the American people, who believed they won World War II, they placed their assets in high positions in intelligence, aerospace, pharmaceutical corporations, health agencies, education, entertainment, news media, etc., to create a, quote, matrix of perception in order to hide this fact from the American people. They had the history of World War II completely rewritten in order to hide the Nazi escape and infiltration from school children studying the history in the future, as well as the Nazis' deep connection with the occult. They had all the major universities all over the world silence the truth about what they knew about the powers of human consciousness to affect reality. President Eisenhower had a meeting with the Galactic Federation of Worlds, which tried to warn him about the Nibiru gray extraterrestrials from Orion and not give consent to them by entering into a treaty. The Nazis had already placed their assets within the newly formed MJ-12 control group, who went behind Eisenhower's back and entered into a treaty with the Nibiru. The Nibiru violated the treaty and moved forward on their future plan to fully control Earth through their hybrid program, abducting millions of humans on Earth. Since that time, a surrender was made during the Eisenhower administration to the Nibiru and Draco, and our legal constitutional government has been denied access ever since. In the interest of balance, the Galactic Federations of Worlds has been working secretly with the US Navy to help protect Earth by helping the Navy create a fleet of spacecraft for a program called Solar Warden, and recruiting personnel for 20 years tour of duty in space on a separate timeline, and then returning them back to their original timeline. With the high-level individuals in our military and intelligence now being illegally denied access, An attempt in 2001 by many military and intelligence witnesses to disclose these operations to the people of Earth was suppressed by their control of the news media. Their most important asset to move forward and accomplish their agenda for a, quote, New World Order was almost the complete control of information through the mainstream media outlets as well as social media on the internet. They kept our civilization from technologically progressing through citing national security concerns, legally suppressing any technological breakthroughs that would threaten their control, thus keeping our planet technologically retarded, while they secretly advanced by several decades of advancement. They kept the public believing that primitive rockets were the only method to overcome gravity to go into space. They used the public's money and personnel and compartmentalized secret projects to fund and advance their secret space program, with operations in Antarctica, the Moon, Mars, Ceres, and elsewhere in our solar system, where they utilized captured humans for slave labor in all their operations and underground bases on Earth and throughout our solar system. Their New World Order plan, through their control of regulatory agencies that were initially intended to protect the health and welfare of the public, was instead being used through various means to fulfill their agenda to reduce the population of the Earth by about 90%, where the remaining 10% would be controlled and enslaved by them. Many whistleblowers and witnesses exposing their dark operations, despite their secrecy and censorship, have contributed to a current global awakening exposing the truth of these crimes against humanity. Once a certain critical mass awakening of the people of Earth occurs, these criminals against humanity will then be brought to justice using the rule of law, which will lead to Earth's liberation into a positive timeline without these dark criminal elements impeding Earth's positive evolution into joining the galactic community. And Elena, bring us up to present day from that.
Yes, sure. Since the 1950s, the Galactic Federation of Worlds has been secretly helping humanity with cooperation programs, sharing technology, helping us building our defenses against the Nebu threat. As part of this cooperation, the Earth Alliance was created, allying Earth and extraterrestrial military forces to fight back the invader. This cooperation program gave birth to the Solar Warden Fleet. February 2021. Luna, Earth Moon, was liberated from the Nebu and the Dark Fleet occupation by the Earth Alliance and the Galactic Federation of Worlds. April 5, 2021. Raids started on Mars, performed by the Galactic Federation of Worlds and the Martian Alliance. May 14, 2021, the Galactic Federation of Worlds decoded the frequency keys of the star gates used by the Nebu in our star system and locking them. June 6, 2021, liberation of Antarctica from the Dark Fleet. July 5, 2021, final victory on Mars. July 14 to 17, 2021, agreements passed on Jupiter between the Galactic Federation of Worlds, the Earth Space Force, and the Earth Alliance. August 28, 2021, liberation of Ceres. and the deep underground military bases were progressively cleared, and the Nebu Greys finally cast out of this star system, as well as the Sicars, the reptilians.
Scientific experiments establishing the reality of the effect of a small group of people to affect this morphogenic collective field we are all in was documented in the International Peace Project in the Middle East, published in the Journal of Conflict Resolution. Researchers were able to identify the minimum number of people needed to experience inner peace before it's mirrored in the surrounding world. That number they determined is the square root of 1% of the population. This represents only the base number required for the effect to begin. The more people participate, the more pronounced the outcome. For example, the square root of 1% of the entire population of Earth, which is approximately almost 8 billion people, would be less than only 9,000 people. You have 100,000 subscribers, that's less than 1/10 of your subscribers. Less than 9,000 people to be required to affect the entire population on this planet. This has been proven in numerous repeated experiments to be a fact. Further evidence of this collective field was indicated by Princeton University, who set up a worldwide network of physical random number generators located all over the planet to measure the effects of consciousness on the electronic devices, and called it the Global Consciousness Project. On the day of 9/11, the equipment spiked a large signal showing there was a collective emotional response that could actually be measured by this field. Other large recordings have occurred on presidential inaugurations, tsunamis, the deaths of public figures. In other words, collectively together, we produce an effect which can actually be measured. Imagine if this effect from the mind of each person could be amplified and multiplied using the science of crystals.
And crystals were used a lot in the ancient past and will be also used in the future. First, we have the crystal scrying. What is crystal scrying? Well, crystal scrying is a very old divination technique that consists in focusing your mind's eye in the center of a crystal ball that is usually a quartz, although amethyst works as well, but gives less reliable results. By focusing the mind's eye or the third eye or the pineal vision into a quartz, we open a vortex through space-time that allows us to see images that can represent a future time, a past time, or a deeper understanding of the present. It is our intention that will decide about the path we want our consciousness to project into, past, future, or deeper understanding of the present. We can either do it for ourselves, global events, or for a person we link to energetically.
And the crystal sphere, formed in the shape of a sphere, has the ability to resonate with all the geometries within the sphere, and is therefore a universally resonant shape that is well suited for this purpose. In India, the Hindu Shiva temples, they worship Lord Shiva in the form of a crystal lingam. The purest and most sought-after form of the Shiva lingam is made of quartz crystal.
This is fascinating, and the ancient Druids used crystals as well. You know, the knowledge related to crystals has crossed the ages of humanity throughout ancient pagan spiritualities, such as Druidism. Gemstones are used by druids for healing as well as to perform spells, as druids believe that stones held keys to transform the fabric of reality. By placing certain megaliths on a particular geomagnetic points on Earth, it works with the ley lines, they were able to open portals onto other dimensions of consciousness, other realms of reality, such as the fourth density, for instance, this parallel realm where the fairies and the inner earth people dwell, the She, as we call it in Ireland, or the Agartha kingdoms. The gemstones were used also in addition to plant spirit medicine and astrological configurations. So the druids, as I am a druid myself, we can use, create little spells, positive, always we work for the light, for the greater good. With gemstones, we will take the particularity of a gemstone and we will add it to certain plants. Each plant has a spirit medicine and also astrological configurations. And it's amazing the power in the gemstones and the crystals. And the quartz crystals, quartz were used to gather energy from the earth and the elements, often placed at the extremity of a staff or a wand. The energy gathered would then be moved along the wand, physically, by the power of the mind. I say, well, physically by the power of the mind. The mind can move physically things. And the crystal acts as a transmuter that sends a ray of energy towards the target. The target can be in physical proximity or distant. It can work by a quantum resonance. We can call it like this. It was called before magic spell. And the Native American shamans also use crystals. As a hereditary shaman myself from the Sami and Norse tradition, I have used quartz crystals to help propel my consciousness more easily to parallel realms. The quartz acts as we say, sort of a trampoline for the consciousness, helping the consciousness shift into a faster frequency.
I have a short personal story on Native Americans. My older brother, who actually changed his name to Willie Whitefeather, he studied extensively the shamanistic practices of the Native Americans and had a friend who was a 107-year-old Hopi Indian chief, David Manungi, who was the keeper of the Fire Clan tablets and was the one appointed to reveal the Hopi traditional wisdom and teachings, including the Hopi prophecies for the future for the general public in 1946, after the use of the first 2 nuclear weapons on Japan. My brother and I made a trip to visit his Indian chief friend in the Hopi village of Aribi. When we arrived at the village to meet with his friend, we brought along gifts of seashells, crystals, and what the chief wanted was a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken as well. After a few hours of him telling stories, one of the Indians said that someone had stolen his cow. The chief went to the tribe's medicine man, who used a quartz crystal in a way that he learned who stole the cow. He double-checked with another shaman to confirm, and sure enough, they found the thief and the cow.
Ancient Egypt used also crystals, and especially quartz. They used a lot of gemstones in their artifacts, but quartz crystal. During the Old Kingdom period in Egypt, from 2686 BC to 2181 BC. The statuary funeral art made use of quartz crystals, inclusions for the eyes. Shaped as conical, polished lenses, it was giving the statue a staggering presence, quasi-hypnotic. The ancient Egyptians from this period believed that quartz was a bridge between the world of the living and the realm of afterlife, enabling the soul to connect to the receptacle when invoked, the statue representing the deceased. Ancient Egyptians used quartz crystals in rituals, and particularly when burying the dead. Pharaohs and priests used cylinders filled with quartz crystals to balance the Ba and the Ka energies of the body. Some were buried with quartz crystals on their foreheads. This was meant to provide safe travel as they moved into the afterlife.
Being an Egyptologist, you know this one well.
Yes. There's a presence when you're in front of these statues. Incredible with the eyes.
I know this story well because I knew Dr. Ray Brown and actually photographed the crystal that he pulled from this crystal that was discovered in a pyramid in the Bermuda Triangle area, which was believed to be an Atlantean pyramid. Dr. Ray Brown was scuba diving near the Bahamas and discovered a large crystalline pyramid and described entering a room in the pyramid that was fully illuminated from an unknown source. And we hear this a lot from, advanced technologies where everything's illuminated, but nobody knows where the lights are coming from. In the center of the room was a quartz crystal sphere with two hands holding it at the top of a pedestal. Surrounding the crystal in a circle were 7 chairs, with one being higher than the other. From the pyramid ceiling, above, a golden rod tipped with a red crystal pointed at the crystal sphere. Dr. Marcel Vogel actually examined this quartz sphere that Dr. Brown retrieved and reported that it was amazing. The sphere emitted this very powerful, very unique energies. I felt it myself. You could put a dowsing thing on, and the dowsing thing just shoots straight up. These 7 chairs in a circle surrounding the quartz sphere appear to be a method of interfacing the minds of the 7 beings, with apparently one of them in the larger chair may have been leading the group as they were projecting their consciousness into the crystal, which was apparently interfacing up through the golden rod into the massive pyramidal structure. This technology was possibly interfacing whatever this group's intention was, possibly even changing the actual structure of reality. It's significant to reflect on the element of these minds interfacing with this quartz crystal and these advanced technologies in this pyramid room that incorporated a higher understanding of the geometry interface between mind and matter, a lost knowledge from our ancient past. And I took a photo of the crystal, and it's a pretty incredible find.
This is absolutely mind-blowing. And I have been shown pyramidal crystal free energy generator, how I have been told our ET friends call them, but these energy generators were used in the past as well. And Atlantis was one of the places, I believe. These devices I have been shown are at the same time both harvesters of universal life force that many galactic people call frill. So they can be both harvesters of universal life force and also energy supply generators. So these devices consist in a pyramidal structure with a 52-degree angle, a central quartz crystal occupying 2/3 of the height of the pyramid, which is wrapped, the crystal, by 2 coils of 2 different materials. It's 2 different metals, one golden and one silvery color. And these 2 different metals are spiraling in 2 opposite directions around the crystal. And at ground level, around the crystal, are 6 other crystals of a different nature, commonly purple, as I have been shown, but it can be different, I suppose, and they are smaller. So these 6 other crystals that are around all point at the central crystal, which is quartz, and they point at it at an angle which is different than the angle of the walls of the pyramid. So it's not 52 degrees. These 6 purple crystals send an impulse to the central quartz. Energy is gathered and sent to the top of the structure. It is gathered by the pyramidion that transforms this concentrated universal life force into energy supply and send it either by physical connection, which is quite rare, or by quantum transfer, most commonly, to whatever device, engine, town, etc., that need to be supplied by energy.
It's nice you don't need to run wires all over the place.
No.
Well, everyone's familiar with crystal skulls. They've been popularized in movies. One of the most famous crystal skulls, the Michael Hedges skull. Dr. Marcel Vogel had a chance to work with the skull. And when Marcel Vogel was working with it, and the owner of the skull, Mrs. Hedges, the young girl who actually discovered the skull in British Honduras on an altar it was a temple. He focused his mind within the crystal skull on knowing the intention of the functioning of the. And this is what he received. He saw a temple with a hole in the top of the temple. The skull sat on a pedestal directly under this hole. There was a priest with a shaved head, robed in white, wearing a medallion of gold inscribed with the image of a sun and its rays. The priest waited for the light of the sun to strike the skull, illuminating it. An older person with a shaved head came into the temple. The priest put his left hand on the head of the elderly man and his right hand on the crystal skull. He then drew in his breath and pulsed his breath. The information in the mind of the older man was now transferred to the skull. He left, and in his place, a young girl, also dressed in white. The priest reversed his hands. He placed his left hand on the skull and the right hand on the head of the young girl He drew in his breath and pulsed his breath. And that knowledge that was contained in the skull was now in the mind of the young person. So he saw it as a information transfer device. And when you think of form and resonance, that somewhat makes sense, doesn't it?
This totally makes sense, and it is really beautiful. Now, with the arrival of the ancient extraterrestrial civilization from other galaxies, the Intergalactic Confederation, recently in October 2021 into our star system, with them arriving with their frequency of this big fleet coming near to us, this frequency has by resonance awakened all the ancient space arcs that were buried everywhere in many places in these star systems, many on Earth. And these arcs were sleeping and they were activated. So these are currently being discovered in our solar system and being activated. I've had the opportunity to visit one of the motherships of these people called also the Seeders. They have 20,000 years technological advance upon us. And I was very privileged and also very impressed. I would even say dumbfounded when I first was invited to visit one of their motherships of the Intergalactic Confederation. The interior walls of the ship, inside, it was covered with crystals, rhomboidal shapes as well as clusters. It wasn't like crystalline flat walls. It was clusters and shapes, crystallizations everywhere. It was magnificent, breathtaking, an experience in a million lifetimes. And these beings are from different densities. So this environment helps them coexist in a shared physicality all together. Indeed, as I was explained, crystals have this particularity that they are able to exist physically in several densities at the time. This was really mind-blowing because when you are confronted to a very much evolved and advanced technology, you are going to naturally imagine metal, metallic sci-fi type architecture. The last thing you expect is to enter a crystal cave inside of a ship. And it was quite revealing to learn that this crystalline environment, that crystals allow them to exist in different densities at the time, share the same physicality. So, talking about extraterrestrials, I know I have had the pleasure to meet Thor-Han Eredion's brother, whose name is Jen Han. He is his younger brother. Thor-Han is my contact in the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And these both persons are from the Pleiades, from the planet Hera. It's a planet of the Taygeta system that they call Ashara. And Jen Han, Thor-Han's younger brother, is an incredible person. He lives there still, and he is studying how to become a terraformer. They don't call it terraformer. They call this discipline star making. So he says he's a star maker. And I have connected with him last year. And when we both, Dan and myself, started to think about working together on a project about crystals, I thought about Jen Han. I said to Dan, well, Jen Han knows a little bit about crystal technology, and I had the opportunity to connect with him via Thorhan. So Jen Han is a student, he's in a sort of university in the Pleiades studying terraforming, and Dan asked questions, a list of questions that I transmitted to Jen Han, and he replied. And our minds were totally amazed because what Jen Han replied matched in every point what Dr. Marcel Vogel had discovered in his researches, and both were completing each other. So, Dan, explain to us, please, who Dr. Marcel Vogel is.
I was a dear friend and research associate that I worked with a number of projects back in the 1980s. Dr. Marcel Vogel, he was IBM's senior head scientist for over 27 years. He was a prolific inventor. He had over 140 patents. He invented the first magnetic coating used in computer hard drives. He created the red and blue phosphors for color television. He developed liquid crystal systems that are used in our computer displays today, and so much more. He was a pioneer in man-plant communications, which led him into the research of the interface of consciousness with quartz crystals and water, which he researched extensively for 17 years. After leaving IBM, he set up a fully equipped laboratory to measure and quantify the science of crystals, and developed a method to amplify and cohere the energies of mind by forming a quartz crystal in a dipyramidal form known today as a Vogel cut crystal. He trained dozens of medical doctors in using his developed technique, utilizing the crystal with breath to alleviate various health issues in the energetic fields of the body, and had incredible success. He was no doubt the first scientist of his caliber to pioneer the understanding of the energies of mind connected with the breath, quartz crystals, water, and most importantly, love. He was a child prodigy. When he was like 7 years old, he set up a laboratory in his backyard with the help of his father, and he discovered how fireflies glowed. He was able to formulate his own formulas. He was an incredible genius that I had the privilege of working with in the early 1980s.
This is amazing. He was an amazing man, and his knowledge will not be lost, and he is going to help humanity and benefit humanity. And it's wonderful.
What's incredible is we're going to be sharing the actual words from Jen Han that you received. And I'm going to be sharing the actual words from Marcel Vogel. And we may enter commentaries at the end of each one, but the words we're going to be sharing are the actual words of these two beings, and you can see how they perfectly corroborate with each other.
Jen Han says, everything in the created universe is constructed on a geometrical holographic structure. The energies of the mind, I like that it is worded as such because there is a difference between this and the electrical brain waves. The energies of the mind are fractals of consciousness solidified in a way, or shall I say, that have taken form as a geometrical manifestation. A thought creates an electrical projection. An energy thought reshapes the holographic geometrical formula of reality. It rearranges the micro-connections linking the fractal elements. Thought can reshape the holographic grid of reality because thoughts are complex geometrical patterns. The crystal will bridge the new pattern to the existing ones, and if the impulse is strong enough, the new pattern will force themselves onto the old, and the old will morph into the new.
Dr. Marcel Vogel said, "The mind of man expresses his thought in geometric patterns. These geometric patterns are identical to what we see in the crystallographic world. The geometry of mind and the geometry of the crystallographic world are identical. We have found also that when a thought form is released into space, two things happen. Thought is contained in the geometric pattern that forms in space, causing that space to oscillate. That oscillation, in turn, acts on matter that is in space. The primary thought form is held in the etheric body of an individual. It fits into a geometric form, much the same way as the energy of our mind fits into the geometric form and pattern of a crystal. It is my belief from our studies that there is a great similarity in the structure and symmetry between the energy body that surrounds an individual. When we think, we generate a pattern, and this pattern locks into space. It then oscillates and radiates a field that acts on matter. This is the energy that follows thought. The crystal is a neutral object whose inner structure exhibits a state of perfection and balance. When it is cut to the proper form, and when the human mind enters into relationship with its structural perfection, the crystal emits a vibration which extends and amplifies the power of the user's mind. Like a laser, it radiates energy in a coherent, highly concentrated form, and this energy may be transmitted into objects or people at will. My little commentary on it is, this is very similar to how a laser functions. A quartz crystal cut in a dipyramidal Vogel cut acts to cohere the energies of mind. And as a laser, you have two mirrors and it reflects back and forth, and 1% has the power to cut through steel. And this is the similarity. Marcel used to say these technologies are akin to what we know in normal physics. The energies of mind through a crystal can also be transmitted into the planetary matrix. The crystal's tetrahedral lattice amplifies the energies of mind, and this is akin to how connecting a signal from a radio transmitter into a large phased array antenna that greatly multiplies the power of the signal.
Jenhan says, the core holographic structure of quartz, the purest material in the universe, is, as I said, based on the same core fractal formula than water, and both are interdimensional bridges. Tetrahedral geometry is one of the main frequency keys used to build worlds and life forms. Tetrahedral fractal geometry is the secret of the universe. Danaan says, love is not only a frequency. Your people will learn that frequency is a holographic geometry. There are 3 types of holographic geometry: atomic, energetic, and photonic. These 3 arrangements create, each in their domain, a hologrammatic structure. All 3 generate a specific frequency that will resonate either through matter, energy, or light. The reverse process is also active. When you generate a frequency, it creates a geometric pattern that imprints the ether. The geometrical frequency patterns that you just created alter or create a holographic structure of matter, energy, or light. Now you need a bridge from ether to matter, energy or light, and can be technology or crystals. Crystals exist in different densities at the same time. They are natural bridges. Danaan says, a quartz crystal or any mineral is in resonance with the planetary matrix it is born from. When you bring your frequency thought on the same resonance as the crystal or any type of mineral, you attune also to its planetary matrix. Danaan says, you take the mineral crystal in your 2 hands. It creates a current. Best is to have 1 in each hand, but it works also with your 2 hands on 1 single crystal. Your hands must not touch. The current will work naturally. It is even better if you are in direct connection with the soil of the planetary matrix. You intend to make one with the planetary matrix. The crystal is the connector, if you will. Quartz is best, always works. Quartz is found throughout the whole universe. It is a fundamental component. You know, you are in resonance when you feel it. It's like a shiver in your whole body from your heart center. You may even hear the crystal singing the frequency of the planetary matrix. Danaan says, imagine a mycelium veil wrapping around a planet. It interconnects everything because it carries information constantly, simultaneously, and towards all points on the web. Well, a morphic grid is a medium that does exactly the same thing. It is sentient, but not as you can comprehend it. It is conscious, should I say. When you plug into it, you are in connection with every living thing on the planetary matrix, simultaneously. It is a non-organic consciousness constructed with frequency patterns in the shape of repetitive fractal geometry. There is one single mathematical formula for the whole of it. Jenhan says, crystals can store data just as water does because constructed on the same fractal core formula. But crystals have way more capacities. Of course, they are the most elaborate states of matter, so elaborate that it naturally embeds consciousness. To answer this question, some medbeds technology use fractal holographic technology. Let me explain. The fractal core formula of the tissue to repair is recorded, and the perfect unaltered geometrical pattern is reconstructed and superimposed on the damaged pattern. The old pattern instinctively pairs and morphs into the new one, because the universe tends to perfection. It is a holographic fractal repairing. Sound frequency is used to tie in the new pattern to the old one. You remember how I explained earlier that holographic structures are constructed or either altered by frequency?
Dr. Marcel Vogel said, the energy of mind is focused in space and has the capacity to expand the crystal lattice system in which it is projected and released with intention. The beauty of this concept and activity is that this information is locked in and stored with the crystal in much the same manner as one stores magnetic domain on a ferromagnetic surfaces, an example, recording tape or magnetic recording disc. In this way, we can focus your attention on the crystal. You can then extract data, amplify the pulse, or release it as a projected burst of etheric plasma. This set of statements is the key, the heart of the evolving technology of the use of crystals and crystal devices in transformational healing. In our laboratory experiments, we have found that thought releases an energy which can store in the lattice of a cut quartz crystal. These patterns of vibrations are stored and oscillate like a magnetic domain field. We have seen in our laboratory the transfer of energy of thought into a quartz crystal. We can retain this energy in exactly the same way as we store information on the ferromagnetic material. Quartz crystals will store the geometric pattern of thought in much the same way. As we think, we produce patterns. These patterns are omnipresent. They transcend the electromagnetic spectrum. By their presence, they act on matter. Matter is then moved into action, much as we experience sound and light. My commentary on that is that know that our mind is continually projecting holographic patterns according to our belief, and we are recreating ourselves every instant.
Jenhan says, breath carries memories and thoughts. It also carries the energy of a being, not only the encoding of its vehicle, DNA, but as well the encoding of the soul. When you project breath, you also project by superimposing a parcel of the soul being, hence a fragment of one's consciousness. Jenhan says, short, precise, surgical, powerful breaths are better than a long one. In a long one, the energy intention gets absorbed by the ether. In short, quick breaths, the energy intention keeps intact and doesn't lose intensity, I recommend short, quick breaths. Think about precise, surgical. Intention is like a needle, sharp and targeted, very precisely, to be able to penetrate matter.
Dr. Marcel Vogel says, to be a healer, the science of breath is essential. Ancient wisdom and yoga can help move a person through the various levels of consciousness. As we breathe, we bring in a volume of air and it spins as it goes down the trachea, filling our lungs with this air. As we hold that air in our lungs, a vibration, an oscillation takes place. In other words, the patterns of thought that are stored in space by the act of thinking are drawn into our body by the breath process, into the bloodstream with the information codes of our breath. We charge our body with breath. We structure our subtle body. And with a chargeless energetic mass, prana. These two energies, breath and prana, we have the essential set of forces necessary for the creation of a thought form. We hold a crystal in our hand, we draw in our breath, focus our mind into the crystal, and suddenly release the breath through the nostrils with the intention to link. A charge transfer takes place. We occupy the space between the lattice system of the quartz crystal. My commentary is, breath is not only bringing air into our lungs, it is indeed connected to a multidimensional transfer of information as we inhale and exhale.
Yes, and my commentary also is that this technique is used in shamanic work for soul retrievals. The shaman brings back from his journey the scattered pieces of someone's consciousness and blows the pieces back into the patient's body through specific chakras by short, powerful breaths. I've been performing this as a shaman. This is another testimony brought by ancient shamanic traditions, that breath can be the physical vessel for consciousness, and that breath can also penetrate solid matter, such as a human body, a gemstone, or a crystal. Jen Han says, the energy force that is a living manifestation of source is being impregnated inside the crystal. But beware, the crystal must be empty. This means no residual emotional imprint, parasiting, or charge. The crystal must be pure and clear from any form of energy or consciousness even. I wouldn't say that at this stage the crystal is really empty because it carries its frequency imprint, but I mean empty from anything that is not the original frequency signature of the crystal. In order to perform this action, embedding a fractal of your consciousness in a dynamic projection into the crystal, the receptacle must be pristine, pure. There are methods of purifications I can tell about. The best is to run the crystal through a sound scan. You need instruments that create a high frequency sound, or trained persons can clear a crystal with their own consciousness. These individuals have reached a clear state of mind.
Dr. Marcel Vogel said, what we have found is that both the vibration in water and in the crystal can be erased by a bulk eraser for magnetic tape, or by a focused thought of pulling in the breath and a sudden release of breath. My commentary is, Marcel was actually able to measure this using a spectrophotometer. He pulsed his breath with an intention and put the energy bands, and you could see it on the valence bands on the spectrophotometer. And then with the intention to clear, he was able to erase it and was able to do the same with a magnetic bulk eraser, showing that we were able to actually quantify this in the laboratory, that using the intention of mind to clear with the pulse breath does indeed work.
And I noticed that a crystal that has been cleared and emptied from any superfluous charge weighs lighter. Danaan says, water, by its natural core structure, is a universal connection medium. Love is of a more complex holographic structure, but from the same fractal core pattern, fractal formula, as water. Crystal is a derivative geometrical pattern from water and love, but built on the same core formula. This is why all interface naturally.
Dr. Marcel Vogel said, the remarkable thing is that all of the crystallographic forms that we have in nature now, and there are 7 major classes that can be formed in water itself. I repeat this statement carefully to you. Water, in the process of crystallization into ice, will exhibit all of the patterns of the crystallographic world around us. It is the personification in a single bit of matter of all that is. It is a very, very profound and meaningful statement. They have discovered this in the ice in both Antarctica and the Arctic by drilling cores hundreds of thousands of feet and pulling these core samples out and carefully pulling out micro plugs under refrigeration of the ice. And they find under the microscope all of the patterns of the crystallographic forms that we have in nature. What we have found in our laboratory is that the energy of mind projected through a crystal will structure water just like it was frozen into ice. The remarkable and unique differentiation is that water, when it was structured in this way that I'm talking to you now, with mind and with thought, remains fluid that is structured. That type of category is called a liquid crystal. My commentary on this is that the elements of water, like quartz, are both universally resonant to all the geometries within this holographic matrix. This is why in water, all geometries can be formed in ice, and why the entire frequency spectrum of light can pass through a quartz crystal.
Danaan says, dissonance cannot attune with an ordered state of geometrical resonance.
My commentary is the famous water researcher, many familiar with Dr. Masaru Emoto, confirms Danaan's statement in saying, quote, water is attempting to communicate something to us. Negative emotions prevent the water from crystallizing, while positive emotions allow it to develop into beautiful hexagonal shapes, unquote. Dr. Marcel Vogel said, we speak of vital water, we speak of holy water, we speak of water from Lourdes, France, we speak of the sacred springs. Each of these statements I find to be true. When I have studied waters from various sacred locale, I find a structure in that water which is unique from the bulk water. I got a sample of water from a sacred spring in Hungary, and it exhibits an energy level that transcends anything I have seen anywhere. I get a little tiny vial. I take a drop of that water and I put it in my reverse osmosis bulk water. and that water immediately has the charge that was in the original vial. My commentary on this is that this is rather profound, I believe. A drop of water from a sacred spring contains a highly ordered state of geometrical resonance within its structure. As Danaan said, dissonance cannot attune with an ordered state of geometrical resonance. Therefore, in the opposite situation, where a single drop of unordered, unstructured bulk water that is in dissonance with the geometrical resonance is put into a container of highly structured water, there will be no effect on the structured water because that drop is in dissonance and cannot affect the highly ordered structured water. Instead, that drop will be transformed by replicating or mirroring that high order of structure that is in the water that surrounds it. This could be likened to how each of us are like a fractal drop of consciousness in an ocean of a larger collective consciousness, and that each of us can greatly affect that larger ocean with higher levels of consciousness versus lower levels. And the reason why the higher frequency of love can resonate and have a greater effect into the higher densities that connect into the entire ocean of consciousness, whereas dissonant energies cannot.
Danaan says, the frequency of love is the connecting pulse between all living things in the universe, even through dimensional planes. Love is the universal bridge. It can bridge anything. I mean anything. Love is the tool. So when you intend love into a crystal, you activate it. You activate its transcending capacity. When on the top of this action you embed a target by visualization, it bridges you to it easily. Love is a secure channel because of the high frequency. It prevents dissonance. The target can be a visualization inside the crystal of a place or person. You can also embed a story by moving images and vocalization of the story. And you can either also embed just a sound, the name of the person or of the place. The more you superimpose layers, the better it is going to work. Repeat for the geometrical resonance. It will force the pattern into the holographic matrix.
Dr. Marcel Vogel said, our primary responsibility is to love. Love is the universal code known by all nature, which brings order, symmetry, and balance to its actions and service. I think that love is one of the most necessary measurable units that we have on this earth plane. Love is the glue of the universe that helps keep matter in form. When I love you, I empower you to bring yourself into a state of wholeness. I, as a healer, only try to assist you to come to self-awareness. I give you one thing, love. In doing therapeutic work with the crystals, we must be cognizant that we are providing a loving field. This field can be nullified by the act of a doubtful thought. All effects will come to a halt. It is the operator's belief in him or herself, the knowledge and assurance of what they are doing that brings about this form of therapy. Working in a loving way with crystals facilitates the transfer of this charge generated by mind. In this way, it is totally harmless. The crystal will amplify the weak field we first generate. As we release this field with intention and breath, the field moves like a laser into the energy or subtle body of the recipient. When we think precisely, thinking in accordance with the well-being of an individual, that thought locks into the pattern of the person and starts a process of integrating the fields that we generate so that we become more and more cohesive, integrated, functioning individual. This says that we become one with ourselves. In this process of developing at wonderment, we build the capacity, the energetics to move to a higher level of consciousness so that the love of God, the divine mind, can flow in and through our own body. In the work we are doing in the laboratory, we are striving to measure this force in water. It is our continuing effort to understand what these forces are and how they operate in nature. We are doing this by observing the structuring of water. This is accomplished by charging a crystal with thought and love, transferring this charge by a resonance process from the crystal to water, which is being spun around a crystal in a clockwise direction. We complete this process by studying the water for a change in pH, conductivity, and its ultraviolet spectra changes. My commentary on this is that this charge transfer from the crystal with the frequency of love and the mind's intention is amplified and moves coherently like a laser into the recipient. This recipient, of course, could be the planetary matrix. In regards to spinning the water around the crystal, Marcel was able to convert thousands of gallons in a winery in Northern California of an inferior wine into a California award-winning wine by transferring into the crystal the structure of a pattern of an award-winning wine, which was then transferred into the inferior wine, spun around the crystal. And there was a transfer that happened, and thousands of gallons of an inferior wine turned into a California award-winning wine, substantiating this.
This is amazing, better than Jesus.
It is amazing.
Danaan says, crystals have their own fractal geometry. If they are in their natural original shape, they have it active naturally. If they are cut roughly, they lose it. But if cut following the lattice structure, they keep it and can even be enhanced considerably that way. Thorhan tells me that you know what type of crystals correspond to what I say. Thorhan confirmed to me, Elena, the response that they are Vogel cut crystals. Danaan says, this is a ratio that acts as a transponder. It is the dynamic geometry. Some shapes, just because of their proportions, naturally affect the holographic structure of the matrix. We use this specific pyramidal ratio to build our Vril, aka Vril, Ki, Prana generators. Because the geometrical structure of the central crystal in a generator will interface with the pyramidal ratio of the building or the machine harvesting its energy.
Danaan's referring to the 52-degree angle of the quartz crystal. Dr. Marcel Vogel said, the large end of the Vogel crystal is cut to the same internal angle as the Great Pyramid of Cheops, 52 degrees. It's also measured as 51 degrees, 51 minutes, or 51.84 degrees to be more exact, but we rounded off to 52 for ease of speaking. The large female end draws prana, also known as Vril, Vil, Chi, life force, that travels down the length of the crystal, being amplified each time it's reflected by a facet. This highly amplified prana flows through the male end of the crystal where it is focused into coherent laser-like energy. Thus, the more facets, the more amplification. Most of the internal angles of water and quartz are either fractions of this 52-degree angle or multiples of it. The fundamental geometry pattern of quartz and water is the tetrahedron. Water molecule bound together form tetrahedrons and tilted or puckered rings. The common bending angle of water is 26 degrees. This is where the intermolecular bonding is the strongest and happens to be at half of the inner lattice 52-degree angle of quartz. The inner lattice angle of the crystal is related to the basal angle. The basal angle is half of the angle of the tip of the crystal. The inner lattice angle of quartz is 90 degrees minus the basal angle, which is 38 degrees. Therefore, the inner lattice angle is 52 degrees. It's important to note that this is also the angle of the Cheops pyramid. The intermolecular bonding angle for the water molecule is 104.5 degrees. This is the angle that exists between the hydrogen atoms of each water molecule. It is virtually double that of the 52-degree inner lattice angle for quartz. It is possible that there is a compatible harmonic between water and quartz because of the similarity of these angles. This would allow a resonant transfer, as we spoke earlier about the wine, in the energies that are inputted to the crystal from a significant group of water molecules in any given sample. The structure of quartz can replicate itself in water because of this resonant transfer based upon this structure. The geometric structure produces frequency patterns, harmonics, that can transfer from quartz water into water. Very small amounts of energy are required for this transfer. My commentary on this is that research has been shown that everything in the universe can be individually attuned to energetically by a given geometrical angle. These angular geometric frequencies have a quality that is akin to how electromagnetic frequencies have both higher and subharmonic multiples of a given frequency, in which the frequency and information can be transferred via these harmonics. For example, a signal of 10 megahertz would have a subharmonic at 5 megahertz, which is half, and a second harmonic of 10 megahertz would be 20 megahertz, which is double the original signal. A water molecule has the angles of 26 and 104.5 degrees, which is the half and double of the 52-degree angle of quartz. Therefore, you could say they are angularly, harmonically interfaced with a 52-degree angle. The relationship between the 52-degree angle of quartz, like the Cheops pyramid, is related to the value of phi, which is the value that resonates fractally into infinity within the structure of the holographic matrix. So this supports what Jen Han said, that this angle acts as a, quote, transponder to interface with these energies of the matrix for their Friel generators. This could be termed angular harmonic resonance. The 52-degree angle cutting of the Victor Schauberger's hyperbolic cone, which happens to represent the curvature of space-time, yields a golden egg of phi proportions, showing again the relationship of the 52-degree angle and the infinite ratio of phi in the calculations of the space-time curvature.
So my commentary is that we have now the detailed explanation of why the Friel generators have had the privilege to see are contained within a perfect pyramid, 52-degree angle, as its perfectly built geometry contains and amplifies the harvested energy, and the spiraling energy throughout a crystal is also amplified by the 2 electrode metallic coils around it. Jen Han says, it works by finding the phase conjugation node inside of the crystal by projecting inwards the geometrical shapes of the two opposite points like a mirror. There is the vortex singularity of the crystal. Focus your thought and energy just there, and you may project your consciousness to anywhere you wish in this universe and the other universes, to other densities, other dimensions. Anything is accessible in space, dimension, and time. This is great power. It is a very important information. I am honored to be allowed to share this with you. Danaan says, there is a very precise, specific pressure that you can apply to quartz that will activate the compression node and open the vortex. The energy produced can be tremendous. This kind of operation must be conducted knowledgeably and wisely.
Dr. Marcel Vogel said, to charge a crystal, hold it in your dominant hand, roll or rotate it clockwise, while at the same time squeezing each of the facets of the body of the crystal. In a short time, the surface of the crystal will begin to feel somewhat sticky and a squeaky sound may be heard. This indicates that a superficial piezoelectric primary charge has been built up onto the surface of the crystal. My commentary is that Pythagoras called the symbol of the two interlacing triangles forming a six-pointed star with a dot in the center, quote, the star of creation. That dot in the center being the central creative point of balance between these two opposite polarity triangles. This is what the lattice structure of a quartz crystal is like. When there is no physical pressure applied on the crystal, the centers of the two opposite polar triads are exactly aligned in the center, and they're at a 0-point potential and neutralize each other out. When there is a slight physical pressure applied, it displaces the lattice network of trillions of these opposite triads, and their charge centers now have developed a collective potential difference, which can be measured in voltage across the crystal. This is known as the piezoelectric effect. The hexagonal tetrahedral crystal geometry creates a vortexal spin that causes the crystal formation to grow in either a left or right-handed spiral.
Danaan says, it is not male and female as biological terms, but active and receptive. The two dynamics twirling in opposite directions create a phase-conjugated tension that creates singularity in the hologram, a convergence of infinite power. The singularity is in the vorticial center, not metric center. The two triads are not equidistant from the singularity nor symmetric either, because their ratio and their distance from the epicenter are determined by the different angles of inclination of the 2 points. It is not a physical node, but an infinite singularity, which is different. The pressure must be performed perpendicularly to the structure of the lattice. This singularity is where is encoded information in the crystal. This is what you want to compress for piezoelectric effect. 2 applications. Do you remember? It is like breath. No slow, long pressure, but a series of sharp, strong pulses. If you apply constant long pressure it will accumulate charge and become a generator. If you apply sharp, quick pressures, it will stimulate the singularity and pierce through the hologram. You can then use the crystal as a tool to modify the hologram. You will feel the appropriate rhythm of pulsation. You can also feel it with your mind, where the power center is. Your being recognizes it. It pulses faster than light. Your body and being recognizes it. They feel it.
This is the first time this information has been corroborated between a being from the planet Era and major scientists here on planet Earth. We're going to take all this knowledge that we have shared and put it into application. And we're going to first start with to seed our minds with an imagination of a positive timeline so that when we actually use our crystals, that image will be fresh and available to us. So I'm going to lead us on a imagination of a positive timeline on Earth. Imagine that a beautiful new world is now realized on planet Earth. All of the dark criminal elements that have done crimes against humanity have been identified and brought to justice, where they can no longer detrimentally affect the billions of lives here on Earth ever again. Across the planet, there is great joy and celebration for the liberation of Earth from these dark forces. The hidden suppressed technologies of the secret space program are now no longer secret and are being put to use, benefiting all of humanity. All human trafficking and slave operations that have been dismantled throughout our solar system. The deceptive, centralized control of information by the mainstream media has been completely shut down, as well as their control of social media on the internet, and are now public utilities in service to the people without a controlling agenda. Open contact with advanced off-planet cultures allows the people of Earth to benefit from the knowledge and wisdom of cultures thousands of years in evolution. Our education system, with the assistance of advanced cultures, gives children the opportunity to reach their highest potential in understanding science and the Earth's true history. The corrupt medical and pharmaceutical corporations that operate for profit are totally replaced with the release of advanced holographic medical technologies, alleviating all suffering from sickness and disease. Lifespans can now be realized into the hundreds of years. Overpopulation is not a concern, with remote areas now able to be inhabitable, as well as off-planet locations. All obsolete and dangerous technologies of nuclear, oil, and coal have been replaced with clean zero-point energy systems. Replicator systems can now create anything to be formed out of the matrix. The basic necessities of water, food, shelter are now available to everyone. A new quantum financial system replaces our easily corruptible monetary system. A new quantum communication system, utilizing the principles of quantum entanglement, replaces the distance-limited and biologically harmful electromagnetic communication systems. A new quantum internet allowing practically instantaneous secure access to greater data from any location. Anti-gravity systems replace all transportation systems. The oceans are cleared of radiation and toxic to life waste. Weather engineering is no longer used as a warfare tool. Our planet is now being renewed with technology that works in harmony with nature. Humanity now directs its attention to spiritually evolving rather than simply surviving. Children, now studying in a vast library depository of knowledge, can look back through history at the tremendous challenges that the people of Earth face that has brought them to today's world. They vowed to never allow this ever to happen to their beloved planet and are filled with gratitude to all those who have contributed to the beautiful new world they now experience.
Now going to get into action and perform some real magic.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you have learned all these amazing things about crystals and about their power to affect the planetary matrix, now that you have implanted into your mind a positive timeline for our future, we are inviting you on a journey together through a meditation using your own crystal. You may have a Vogel crystal, or you may have a regular cut crystal or raw. It is the same application. Just take your favorite crystal with you. Through a meditation, you will use your favorite own crystal, and we will teach you how to concretely make a change for real, physically, using the power of your mind and the crystal. A secret that has been hidden from us for a long time. Let us collectively co-create and imprint into our crystals a vision of the most wonderful and positive timeline for the greater good of all the beings of Terra.
As Elena says, you can have a small little crystal, you can have a little larger crystal, or you can use a Vogel type cut crystal to do this. And this is a process that we will go through. The first step is we're going to build up the pranic energies in our body. And we're going to do that through the breath. And we take a deep breath in. Hold for a few seconds. And then slowly release. Hold for a few seconds. Take a deep breath in. Hold. And then slowly release. And the last time, take a deep breath in. Hold and slowly release. Build up the pranic energy in our bodies. Now, the first thing, as Marcel and Jenhan both recommend, is we have to clear the crystal that we're using of any previous imprints of energy, since the crystal does hold all energies. And we do this with intention. And so we take the crystal, use a natural crystal. Not everybody has a Vogel crystal. Put your fingers like this, and your fingers like this, okay? Take a deep breath in with the intention of clearing. And when you release your breath with that intention, do it with a rapid pulse through your nostrils, all right? And rotate it to another set of facets and do the same thing again with the intention of clearing. Okay. Now the crystal is clear. Now we're going to connect and become one with the crystal. Rotate the crystal in your hand, rub, and feel the facets that builds up the piezoelectric charge within the crystal. You'll start to feel like a little surface charge on the surface of the crystal facets. Okay, now that we are at one with the crystal, and the crystal is an extension of our consciousness that's linked into the planetary matrix of Terra and all beings, with the love for the planet and all living beings on planet Terra, fully imagine the most benevolent outcome of a timeline here on the planet Earth in your mind's eye. See that timeline and feel it in your heart at the same time that it is already now. It is our current reality. Take a deep breath in, holding that vision. And when you release your breath with a rapid pulse, also give your crystal like a little pulse, physical squeeze at the same time as you release your pulse of breath. So with that vision in mind, take a deep breath in. Project that vision into the crystal. Know that it is sent through the planetary matrix and that the program is now written. Be grateful. Know that it is so. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we have now the tool to transform our reality, to transform the hologram of the universe, and decide in which world we want to live, create it ourselves, using the power of crystals. So, as concluding thoughts, Dan, do you think, what is the difference between using natural crystals versus Vogel cut crystals?
As we spoke of, ancient times, they've always used, they never had Vogel crystals. They used regular crystals, naturally grown crystals. And so they are effective. But when they are cut in a dipyramidal way, they enhance the energy like a laser, as Marcel said, and as Jen said. So a Vogel cut crystal will give it that extra amplification boost. And you can just imagine, of your over 100,000 subscribers, if we had 1/10 of the people, and it was documented that people without crystals were able to affect the entire morphogenic grid. They were able to measure this. Now, with the power of the crystal, according to the information shared by Jen and Marcel, each one of us has amplified that into the planetary matrix. And so this exercise could be extremely powerful in transforming the the entire timeline on this planet.
Yes, because when we affect not only the hologram of reality, the physicality, but also the time, space-time continuum. And this is great power, as Jen Han said. This is great power. You need to be aware that it's a really powerful tool. And if it has been kept away, hidden from us, there's a reason. Because when we understand this tool and we know how to use it, well, we are all powerful. When acquiring a crystal, what would you recommend to be aware of, please?
There are, Vogel got very popularized, and so of course many commercial interests have been putting out Vogel knockoffs, I guess you could say, Vogel inspired crystals. Just a few sources are doing it exactly according to the specification. It's very critical, as both Jen Han and Marcel have said, that the crystal is cut exactly so that the points of the crystal in a Vogel cut crystal are on the C-axis, which is the growth axis, which the energy spirals through. And the angles and everything have to be exact. With this type of technology that's is somewhat new, I guess, to our generation here on this planet, although it's ancient, but we always think of it as like folklore and so forth, and just people who in certain circles use this type of technology. But I know there's many viewers that are aware of what's going on planet Terra, and they want to have a feeling of empowerment, that they can make a change, don't watch television. But
that's a basic.
So I'm honored to be able to do this with you, to share this information from Jen Han and Marcel in a gift to the people of the planet to be able to use as a tool to affect affect our timeline. And it's powerful. And I believe that's why in 1957, all major universities across the planet, they took out of the universities the powers of human consciousness that can affect reality. They don't want us. The secret societies, of course, they understand these powers of consciousness and the collective mind that we all have, and how collectively we all together create reality. And the crystals are a bridge that goes right to the core. And that core is most effective when it's done from the heart, from love, to affect the higher levels that precipitate into the complete planetary matrix that we're in.
Yes, totally. And what I want to say is that crystal is a bridge, as you said, and a bridge to everything, to time bridge, physicality bridge as well.
I could mention that we shared a lot of information on today's show. So I'm going to put on a website I did in honor of Marcel, marcelvogel.org. I'm going to put a link that will have all the information from Jen Han and everything, and also sources that I've vetted that do everything according to the specification that Marcel has put out. And so it's sort of an information library of the years I worked with him, and people can pick up where the early pioneers of this technology that is used in the secret space program. And Charles talks about being on the med bed with the crystals inside the med bed. and your incredible experience actually being inside of the space ark, seeing. It's interesting that, as you said, you would think it'd be all like this sterile, stainless steel looking metal spaceship, but it's actually somewhat organic looking, with all the crystal clusters all over the place that you wouldn't expect, but they're physical on multiple dimensions.
That's it. That was something very important, very revealing that I learned that day. Why do they live in an environment of crystal? Because it allows them, who are different civilizations from different densities, to live together, to be together in a space on the same physicality. Although they are from different densities, crystals allow that. It bridges this. And this was absolutely revealing. Incredible applications. We can also use crystals on ourselves physically, to heal ourselves. I think you have examples. You saw Marcel Vogel heal some people with just using crystals and the power of the mind.
Yes, it's a rather involved procedure. I can highlight it briefly. And as he said, as a healer, you have to detach yourself from the outcome. All you do is put yourself at service. All you're doing is facilitating another individual to heal themselves. What you're doing is the crystals act as somewhat of like an etheric scalpel, I guess you could say, but not nothing sharp, where it goes into the higher energetic body, and say there's some, with the understanding that our body is being formed from a higher dimensional source that comes from our soul into our three-dimensional form, and that we have many densities, like the space ark. Our bodies have many different densities that we work in, and the crystal allows it to act as a bridge to go into those other densities, where the higher forms the lower physical form. And so let's say somebody has an injury that they have. Let's say they have a bad shoulder that impacted, they fell, and it's like, and there's a pattern there that's being broadcast in space on a higher dimensional level. And so in the process, one of the first things they do is bring your energy up, like we did in the exercise, to bring the pranic energy up. You cannot work on a depleted body. They have to have a certain amount of energy to move the energy through their bodies. And so in the process, they usually attune into the thymus, which is an area which connects throughout the whole body. And Marcel found out that there was he called it the critical rotational angle, whereas like what we talked about, that everything in the universe has a geometrical angle to it that resonates. So our DNA has a specific unique frequency. And when you rotate the crystal, a person who's a practitioner of this, they develop a sense of the energy, and you can feel it as you rotate it and as you go into a person's energy field. And as they say, ask and you shall receive. It's that simple. You ask to be shown where is the core. You ask the person who you're working with, where is the core problem? Show me in my mind's eye, where is and usually if something's hurting, it's pretty easy to guide in on it. And what happens is, when you're increasing the energy of the crystal, the higher the energy flow that's going through the body will amplify the pain as well. And so it makes it even easier to lock in. And so when they do that, once they have identified that, and they're willing to let go of it, and it could be, an emotional connection, or it could be complex, but you ask to be shown what is the core. And you have the person do a couple of deep breaths, and just as we did in putting a vision into the planetary matrix, you use the same pulsed breath. You have the person take a deep breath in, they lock their mind onto where that core problem is, and then Marcel would go, and it would be like this dramatic thing, like release, you know, and it's like he would connect into the energy field, and it's like it would pull it out of the etheric pattern, and then you immediately fill in with love, as love is the integrative force that restructures that pattern, as Jen Han and Marcel both made clear. And amazing, miraculous thing. He was working with 24 medical doctors. I traveled to the mines in Arkansas and got, all these crystals for the laboratory, which he was cutting for these 24 medical doctors in the San Francisco Bay Area. That was having incredible. One person regained his sight. I mean, miraculous things. When you consider the technologies in the secret space program, how it acknowledges, as Alex Collier said, that basically the technology is holographic, and that if you can restructure the hologram, I mean, miracles are quite possible, and so yeah, that's sort of a very basic. I'm not giving ask your doctor if it's crystal healing's right for you, but that's kind of a real simple explanation of the process that was used is and using love, your desire to help somebody.
Yes, love is the key, as Jen Han was saying, and many of all these beings, and many of us as well, say that love is the key to everything. But actually, we really explain why on a scientific, level. And yes, I remember Alex Collier mentioning this anecdote when he witnessed on board an Andromedan ship. They had rescued people from space, and they were imprinting a younger version of their cells where it was damaged, and the healthier pattern was superimposing to the sick, the damaged one. And Jen Han explained sort of the same thing, that you imprint the resonance upon dissonance, and resonance wins. And you were mentioning what I wanted to add, something you said previously. You were mentioning that the education systems have just blocked us from this knowledge, anything that goes with consciousness, the power of consciousness. Well, what I wanted to add is that also we've been told that imagination is a fantasy. It's for kids. You must not use imagination. It's contrary to science. Well, I'm sorry, imagination, what it is, it's our superpower. It's our power of visualization, of creating a thought and putting it out as an intention. And that's very powerful. Oh, no, imagination, it's for children. Do not imagine anything, because you're not taken seriously if you imagine. That's the damage we've been.
Yeah, Marcel used to say, we're made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, in other words, we're like a fractal of that pattern, that divine pattern. Therefore, we create. Our imagination creates. Even Einstein said the imagination is greater than knowledge. And Alex Collier, on a previous show I did with you, one of the projects I worked on with Marcel was a camera that was patented in Paris, France, that thousands of photographs. It was a holographic camera that could take pictures, and it can move forwards and backwards in time, which substantiated all the principles that Alex Collier said, and how the Andromedas explained to him how the medbeds are able to age reverse you, give you back your arm or leg that's been taken off. This technology would completely disrupt our corrupt medical system, because anything could be alleviated with this type of technology.
Oh yeah, just remember what Jan Han said. He said, the universe tends towards perfection. And that's when, that's how the healing is done. He called it repairing. In 2 words, repairing, pairing again, pairing, repairing.
It's like how the placebo effect works.
Yeah.
If we assist that universe moving toward perfection by believing it, because our thoughts can definitely affect us as a nocebo or placebo, either direction, according to what we think. And so our thoughts are so important to pay attention to what we are creating.
Yes, thinking is manifesting, is creating. And I would recommend everyone who has watched this video to install a daily routine and do that regularly. Mm-hmm. You have either for your own life or either for the planet, or both. Include your own life in the life of the planet and the future. For instance, sitting every day, I think 5 minutes, 10 minutes is enough. What do you think, Dan?
That's an excellent idea. And the more we do that, the more it helps morph into that reality. If all of the listeners doing this exercise that Elena and I are sharing with you, if we do this on a regular basis, it can't hurt anything, right? So let's utilize the power of our consciousness, and through the crystal connect. And this is power that the elements that want to use fear and control, they don't want the people to know that we have this great power within us.
And another great person whose name is Anax once told me that when you visualize, you put out in the universe a thought, you want to manifest it. Do not manifest it just as an image, manifest it as a dimensional hologram, like not only the front, but the sides, the back, the top, and the bottom. Visualize it in volume, construct it. And also, do not use negative wording as much as you can. For instance, do not say, I wish there is no more wars. Instead, you can say, I wish there is peace. That's a difference.
Yeah, I accept peace, and yes, and feel it with all your senses, smell, taste, hearing, the more you can make it whole and complete in every way, the more I believe it embeds that reality into creation.
Well, we hope we will make together this better world. And if we have just all of us made this active, dynamic meditation exercise today, I think the timeline already changed, probably. So
exactly.
So keep it up every day, maintain it, let us anchor it. If you have any questions, put it in the comments of this video. Dan will reply. Dan, you have also a website where people can find documentation?
Yes, marcelvogel.org. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer every single one of them. I love sharing knowledge. I have no financial interest in this whatsoever. I just want to see our timeline, see the deceptions exposed and our planet liberated and move forward onto, the beautiful, beautiful paradise that our planet was always meant to be. And if you have a question, put it in the comments below and I'll answer every single one of them.
Thank you, Dan. This is amazing. And we will also put links to where to buy Vogel crystals if you want. Any crystal works because it's crystal quartz are amazing, whatever the way they're made. If they are cut, we recommend that they are cut following the lattice structure. That's why the Vogel crystals are a sure value for that. But if you have your favorite one that is not Vogel, you can work with it as well. It works as well. So we will put all the links underneath. And
you can have a $5 crystal, or a $20 crystal, or you can spend, $150 for a nice small little Vogel, or you can treat yourself to an even more expensive one. It depends on how much you want to get into the science of crystals.
Thank you, Dan. And let us make of this world a wonderful one. We are the architects. We are the architects.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Elena. It's been an honor.
Been an honor as well.